Sup nerds, I'm Wes.
I'm Tom.
I'm Aaron.
Today we're taking a look at Rising 5 from Grey Fox Games. Well, it wasn't always Grey Fox Games.
No, it's not. Mando Games.
Say,
holy... Oh, God, there's way too many.
It's just being published by Grey Fox Games
Just say
now.
Grey Fox, there's way too many.
Rising 5 is a cooperative puzzle game where you all are working together to try and solve this rune puzzle, and you have all these characters that you control with cards, and you move about the board, and you try and fight monsters and collect these little cubes that kind of let you get use an app, which is one thing that you have to use with this game. So I mean,
there is a variant over here where you can have a game master, but yeah, mostly
we haven't done that.
We haven't done that. We're probably going to use the app because otherwise that person would probably be pretty bored.
So the biggest thing is that app that kind of gives you clues on whether or not you're how close you are to solving this puzzle. Say you've got certain runes correct and certain ones that aren't even supposed to be there, but it gives you very weird information because it has these creatures that come up that don't match the runes, and you don't know which creature matches what rune. You have to slowly solve that, and that's how the game progresses, is you're trying to get as many clues as you can.
So the best way that I could describe the puzzle is actually this same type of concept was used in the Mansions of Madness app for 2nd edition. If you've played that, you might be familiar with there's puzzles of these things need to be in a certain order. And we're not going to tell you which ones it is, but we're going to say one of them is in the right order, one of them is in the puzzle but not in the right spot, and these two are just not even in the puzzle. Like of the 7 different colors, there's only going to be 4. But the extra twist that this adds is it gives you, like Aaron said, creatures. Those symbols correspond to a color. So the snake could be blue and the spider could be red, but you don't know that. It just says the spider is in the right position and it's the right one, and the snake is in the puzzle but not in the right position. So that's that extra little kick that you get. But it is a logic puzzle, so you can solve it in X number of moves with the information you get. So it's not... And it's going to be different every time, but it's going to be the same type of puzzle you're solving every single time, right?
Mm-hmm. And at first, the first few games I played, I'm like, oh, okay, so you're always going to have one that's right, one that's in the puzzle but the wrong place, and 2 that aren't there. And then it was actually our 3rd game, I think, where it wasn't like that. And I'm like, oh, no, we just have 2 that are in the puzzle but not in the right place, and 2 that aren't here, which we were also playing on the hardest difficulty mode. So that was a hard game.
Yeah, but we were playing... So difficulty is, Aaron was saying that you control characters with these cards. Mm-hmm. So you're drawing up cards up to your hand limit, but you could draw less if you want to because you could hit these red suns, kind of like epidemics in Pandemic. And the more difficulty is just you add more red suns in the draw deck that do bad things once you hit them. That information isn't given to the app. So the app didn't know that we were playing the harder version.
When you're playing this game and moving the characters, each character has a unique ability, and I think the one that is actually needed the most to solve the puzzle is Oracle, who actually swaps out the runes and who actually, that this mainly is. You can swap positions or just completely remove them and swap them in and out. Mm-hmm. And without, you have to use the entire team, to a degree. You need to use Ellie to move the sun so you can kind of keep back darkness and the game ending. And then, being able to attack, the monsters from far away with Nova is really good. You need to use all of the abilities and you need to work together. And I thought it was interesting that whenever you do an attack, other players can discard cards of that hero to help boost your attack. But then it's kind of limiting their turn. Because you definitely want to try and activate as many abilities as you can. So if you can activate all 5 heroes on your turn and activate all 5 abilities, I think that is one thing that really helps out with the game. Is the more abilities you can activate, the better off you do. But you also need to, fight the monsters and actually kill them.
I do think the fighting was probably one of the weakest aspects of this game. Mm-hmm. I said before that I never really like when outcomes are based off of just a single die roll. And that is what this is. There is some modification, like you said, where you can discard cards or if you get a boost if there's another character there. But at the end of the day, it comes down to this one die roll. I wish that we were talking about what if there was a second dice and you could add the second dice and you roll. There's an ability where you roll both of them and take the higher one or whatever. But it felt like the combat was just kind of the weaker aspect. It's necessary because you do need to fight these monsters in order to get the green cube so you can solve the puzzle, but it was always just kind of like, okay, did we get it? Nope. All right.
It is a little lackluster, but I think it's a little better than just completely deterministic, where it's like, I go here, I have more strength, I win.
Yeah.
I feel like adding that little bit more randomness of like, oh, we could lose if I could, if I roll 4, I'll beat him, but if you guys can, spend some of your cards to help me beat it, it kind of runs down the game, what you can do on your turns.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's some balance in there, and there's some tough issues. So it's not the worst combat I've ever seen. It's just not the best.
One of the things I really like about this game is the fact that we don't each control a character. Like in Pandemic, I compare most co-op games to Pandemic because one of the big ones I played, I think it's one of the best co-op games.
It's also just like the staple co-op.
Yeah, most people have played Pandemic, where we're not each controlling a dude, and so it's kind of like we're going to talk about what's best for me to do on my turn, but this is kind of my goal, and I'm over here doing this, and you're over here doing that. Because you get all the different cards that each card you play controls a different character, we're all controlling everybody. So there's definitely a little bit of if you put him over here, on my turn I can do this with him, and I control this over here. And it kind of helps just the game keep moving because everybody is in the action. It's not like, all right, you just go over there and you just keep that little area safe. And I'm going to go over here, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be exciting and fun, and you just go keep that at bay and whatever. And even the fact that even the artifacts you get, it's not like, oh, I got this artifact. It's the team got this artifact. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like solo gaming with a group. In that you could very easily solo game this because you're controlling everybody already.
Oh, okay.
But it is...
It's not like, in a solo game where you sit down and I'm going to control 2 characters. It's like you're always controlling all... I get what you're saying.
It's like a 3-legged race. It's like...
A lot
you're
of
working together. You're working together, but you're controlling all the same body parts.
Yeah. I do think this game was originally going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy game, and then they kind of couldn't get the rights. But, Echo is Star-Lord, Nova is Gamora, Eli is the hot one, Nebula, the actress is hot, Hal is Groot, and Oracle is Rabbit, or Rocket Raccoon. And then, even the runes could be, Infinity Stone shards or something. Exactly. It's totally could have... I think that was we're going to make a Guardians of the Galaxy game, and we didn't get the rights, so it's just some generic sci-fi.
It does feel like a very thematic game that I just have no idea what the theme is.
Like playing Dune.
The fact that, each character has their own strength in action, that the sun that's, going red, and so you're trying to keep that from happening, and there's these different creatures that are attacking you, but these polar bears that help, and there's it's like a little polar bear thing.
It's totally a polar bear.
And then there's these constellations that you're trying to look at to find out. I'm like, oh, this would be an interesting graphic novel, or maybe a straight to Netflix TV series, or yeah.
Hey man, it might be. I don't even know. Might already be. They might have made something for it. Mugs or... The production quality of the game is pretty solid, pretty top-notch, something that you would expect with Gray Fox games, and including the insert.
Ooh, it's so pretty.
It's so pretty. Every character has their own little space here, space for the die, and it does hold sleeved cards. Now, sleeved cards in terms of width and length, it's big enough, but in terms of the height of the sleeved cards, because it increases the thickness of the cards, they are kind of stacked up. So you can't have the character deck here and the encounter decks over here. You do have to split it up. The minorest of complaints with inserts. Otherwise, pretty dang top-notch.
So if you like cooperative games and you're looking for a Guardians of the Galaxy style game, but you can't find one because there isn't one yet, this is the game you should get.
Isn't Thanos Rising a cooperative?
But it's not just Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's not just Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's the Avengers. This is Guardians of the Galaxy, but
by themselves.
It's kind of like the side street ones where I'm Rockman
and Hard to See Girl.
And Hard to See Girl. I think they did a really good job of kind of balancing. I didn't play the hardest difficulty, so I don't know how much more difficult it gets.
We do.
Yeah. So I'll pass that torch to them in a second. I do like controlling all of the heroes cooperatively instead of just like, everybody discussing, okay, on your turn, you're going to go do this. On my turn, I get to do this cool thing. And then it goes back to you do that lame thing again. Like, this is everybody's working together, controlling everything simultaneously, trying to keep balance in this universe while solving a puzzle. I think that is the coolest implementation of, like, puzzles in a cooperative game that I've seen lately.
So I do really like Rising 5. I don't love it. I think it's a really solid co-op game. You definitely do need to work together a lot. There are a lot of times where there's a lot of really good choices. The puzzle it's probably going to be harder for some people than others because like people who are just more attuned to solving puzzles, it makes more like because it's just logic. Like you can just figure it out in a certain number of moves. Like even if you like replace this color with that other color and it still doesn't tell you that that's the one that's in the puzzle, that still gives you information because you know that the one that you didn't choose is the one in the puzzle kind of thing. So some people are just going to be more naturally kind of better at that. So I think the biggest complaint and what I'm kind of hinting at here is that there's not that much replay value. You know what I mean? When you play it a couple of times, you kind of feel like you're doing the same thing each time. And the main reason for that is these decks have starter cards that always start out there. So the beginning of the game is always the same every time you sit down. So I would like to see an expansion with just more cards, more like even not an expansion that adds more mechanics, just differences I would still be fine with. So those are my only complaints. There you go.
So my thoughts on the game really did shift a lot going from playing the easy mode to the hard mode. The easy mode, like Tom said, it's really easy. You're almost like I've never lost the easy mode. You're pretty much gonna win unless, again, like Tom said, these puzzles just don't make sense to you because maybe that is you. And if you don't like those logic puzzles where like figuring out what's there, then this isn't gonna be a game that you're gonna enjoy. But even if you're like moderately good at them, easy mode, you're probably just gonna crush it. Especially because the whole like pressing your luck of like, why would you not draw 6 cards? It's not really there. Once you do go to hard mode and add 5 cards, it got super intense because I'm like, oh, I really need cards, but I know that red card's coming. I'm going to take 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm good. But not only, like, I could have taken 5, and maybe I know I could, but I'm also thinking, like, okay, if I take 5, Tom might get 1 or 0, which would be super bad. So, like, that was a super bad
move.
Yeah.
So that became a really big thing of, like, just figuring out what to draw, and then you just were so limited on your actions. Having 6 cards every turn just, again, makes the game super easy. It makes fighting things easy. We got crushed. We were somewhat close to figuring it out. I think we finally solved what the puzzle was. We just didn't have enough moves with Oracle to actually change the puzzle to get it to where it needed to be and then get the cubes to be able to solve it. So I actually really enjoyed it on hard mode because it was a challenge, and I think co-ops should be challenging. So again, I see what Tom says with the decks where there's not really big decks, the game. So I think I probably would enjoy the game a little bit more if all the decks in the game were bigger so that there's more cards to draw, maybe a 6th Sun card in there, just have a bigger deck. I didn't really like that when you put the Sun cards in, you just kind of stuck them into this, in Pandemic, you make your even piles and then you shuffle an epidemic card into each. So you could get 2 epidemics back to back, or you could get 2 that are really far apart. And then so you just take the deck and you stick the red cards in, trying to spread them out equally, which is nice because you're not going to get 2 back to back, but
You're going to have one at the bottom.
Yeah, you could also kind of math it out and I had a hard time not being okay, I know I kind of stuck those 2 closer together. So and I tried not to, but it still happened.
Yeah, but that's something you could house rule. I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't split the decks, shuffle them, and stack them.
The other house rule I'd probably do is, especially if you are playing in the super difficult mode, that if you had multiple people, if you had 3 people at one location, you would get a +2 in combat, not just a +1. Because being so card limited, we had the game where there's a boss at every location, and we could never get enough to actually kill the boss, because you would need to get a person there buffing them, at least 1 card there buffing them to get statistically a good chance of winning, and then you wouldn't and you'd lose, and you're oh, well, now it's going to drop down again, now we got a red card, and now we lost. So
all the bosses are 5, and you can't even just naturally roll that. There's no 5 in the die.
Yeah, you have to have help. So I think that being able to have everyone clustered at one space, like it's not going to be super helpful because there's a lot else going on. So like you really do want them spread out, so sacrifice to have them together. I'll probably house rule it that way from now on. But again, house rules are great because you can decide how you want to play it. And if you do want to check this game out, there's going to be a purchase link in the description box down below.
And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored.